Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next edition of AmiSights. We are just recovering from the annual National Association of Government Guaranteed Lenders Conference in beautiful Colorado Springs, Colorado, at the Broadmoor, which, if you've never been there, is a magnificent.
Sure is.
What I really want to just spend a few minutes with Lynn is talking about sort of the experience of going to this conference in the middle of a government shutdown. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next edition of AmiSights. I'm Ami Kassar, your host, along with my co-host, Lynn Ozer, aka the SBA Queen. And today you've got the two of us. We are just recovering from the annual National Association of Government Guaranteed Lenders Conference in beautiful Colorado Springs, Colorado, at the Broadmoor, which, if you've never been there, is a magnificent.
Sure is.
What I really want to just spend a few minutes with Lynn is talking about sort of the experience of going to this conference in the middle of a government shutdown.
It's kind of crazy, right?
Kind of crazy. And let me just maybe share my initial thoughts with
Sure.
you and
Go
tell
ahead.
me what you think. We live as part of an ecosystem that runs on a government program, the SBA. And what was mind-boggling to me was to be there with about 1,000 people from around the country, all of them who participate, and we all make our livings supporting and helping borrowers through this SBA program in different capacities. And we were there, but in this government-private partnership, our colleagues from the SBA weren't there because they weren't allowed to be there. And it just really, to me, and I don't know what you thought, was a reminder of the implications of this program. And we are a tiny pimple in the government bureaucracy that people don't really understand. What do you think about all that?
Well, it was kind of depressing in a way when you looked at all the people that were there, all the lenders that you just said, there was 1,000 of them. But that's not just everybody that was there. How about the whole entire staff of NAGGL? And how about every single vendor that was there in the exhibit hall, which was probably another couple hundred people that were there selling to the lenders, meaning that part of, if not all of their business is dependent on the programs of the Small Business Administration. And it's the ripple effect. And as you said, Ami, we are a very, very small part of the government bureaucracy, the government wheel, every government agency and so forth. And the shutdown affects so many people in just our industry. It's mind-boggling to think what this shutdown is causing for so many other people. We are actually quite lucky that the lenders have been through this before, unfortunately, and a lot of them could prepare for a short shutdown and maybe not have too much disruption to their pipelines. But as time marches on, and it's been
And it's marching on.
it is marching on, and it's been over a month, and we even heard people speaking about it, Ami, at the conference, that there's only a certain amount of time until it's really going to get bad. And I think our timeline will be up by November, by Thanksgiving, which is the end of November, but even probably before that, when people that, they had their loans approved before the shutdown, and they get through their closing process. But those that didn't have their loans approved, that need to close by the end of the year for lots of reasons, tax reasons probably being the largest reason that they want to close their deal before the end of the year, and it might not happen. So that was distressing. And the big picture of what's going on in the government is it's upsetting. We heard a lot about the problems that tariffs are causing to our small business community. I mean, I'm sure being away, we heard a lot about the air traffic controllers and how that's been problematic getting to a big conference. And it's only going to get worse during the holidays when more people travel. And why should they work and not get paid? They're essential services. I don't understand that, but that's not what we're here to talk about. But it just is mind-boggling to me.
I just think there are a lot of unintended consequences, right? And
Right.
ultimately, I had lunch with someone today, and part of the job of our politicians on both sides of the aisle is to figure out how to compromise. That's what we pay them for. We elect them to figure out compromises and to come together. And I understand some of the points on the Republican side. I understand some of the points on the Democratic side. I'm not trying to be political, but what struck me the most was and we're starting to feel it every day in our work at multifunding. Like, we can't get answers about certain things, right? And so we're just in this little tiny microcosm, and you could see this whole industry and the down and on all these departments and all these people and all these companies, whether they're banks or non-banks, and people are trying to figure out how to do their forecasts for the end of the year and their projections for the end of the year and what's going to go and what's not going to go. We see it with small businesses we're working with who need capital. We cannot make a commitment to them when the government's going to open. What I really don't like is I see nasty alternative lenders. So, oh, come in there, we'll give you a loan. The SBA shut down. Okay. And
Predatory lenders.
predatory loan. I
Yeah.
didn't like one of those lenders up on the stage at NAGGL, but we'll talk about that another time. But the whole thing was it's just as a reminder of how critical it is and how program impacts people economically, but not directly, like the food program or airline safety or other things like that. But it's time for the government, our politicians, let's get them in a room, let's lock them in a room, not feed them, not have any tables so they can't sit down and have a meeting, and they get out of the room when they sorted this out.
Yeah, they need to come to a conclusion, and I'm not taking sides one way or the other, but what I heard was, the Republicans aren't gonna negotiate until the government's open, and the Democrats wanna fix the healthcare situation before the government opens. Well, the healthcare stuff is hitting the fan, and I heard this morning on the news, there are some people who are seeing their healthcare bills go up as much as 400%. Those people don't start screaming at their legislators to go back to work and fix this. I don't know what would hit them harder than that. So I'm hoping for everybody's sake, the poor people whose bills have gone up, and for everyone else in all the government programs across, you know, the whole spectrum, go back to work. Election day. What do you think about that? I mean, is that gonna work? Whose favor is that gonna work in, or does it depend on what state you're in?
Just to be clear, we're recording this on Monday. Tomorrow's election day. I hear predictions all the time. Oh, we'll sort this out after election day. Last week, every week I hear it's going to happen this week. It's going to happen this week. It's going to happen this week.
Well, I
It's
sure
got
hope it does.
and all the positivity of the SBA and the private government partnership that it creates. Okay. And part of it was just so sad last week, because half of the players that make it tick weren't there.
The government half of the partnership was missing, and that's such a good time for everyone to share their ideas back and forth and help make the program more efficient and more effective, and we missed, a really good opportunity.
We missed that. And that's just one of the tiny ripples of this thing, right?
Yeah.
Every day the ripple effects just get a little bit worse.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure people really understand. We were at dinner a couple weeks ago, and someone said, I don't get it. These people will get paid when the government's open. Just let them keep working. I'm like, you're out to lunch, buddy. Right.
They talked about that on the news this morning too. How many people live paycheck to paycheck? And so many of them who were interviewed said, we can get by missing one, but we can't get by when we're missing our second paycheck and then moving on to the third paycheck. And what about the ripple effect of that, of them being unable to pay their bills? It's
Crazy.
I don't understand how they're playing with people's lives, and it's just beyond my comprehension that these people who are elected to represent these people aren't doing their job. They're
Job
not
is to
doing their job
part of the job is to compromise.
part. It's a
Yes.
huge part. In fact, they should all be, learning how to compromise and in negotiating classes before they're even allowed to run. I mean, seriously. That's what they need to do. It's a huge
Well,
negotiating thing.
it would be a dream come true if this podcast becomes irrelevant, because by the time it goes live, this is solved, but God bless us and all.
Well, we certainly hope so. And
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.